record on this computer. All right. Okay. Great. So Annie and Chelsea, it is 12:21. Are you okay with me running the meeting?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Thanks, everybody. So our agenda for today, and again, all available on the website. I'll try not to hop back and forth too often between documents here. So the last time we met was October 6th. We'll go through, I'll quickly skim those minutes. We'll get those action on those. We have Stream Team, Winooski NRCD, to look over the 2020 work plan, review and approve that work plan. There's an update on recent activities. I've included some of their monthly status reports on the website. And then Dave Barron from Pluck will go through some of the metrics for calendar year 2020. And then discussion of outfall assessment. Annie, you had a nice email on that. Can you recap the purpose of that item just right now so everybody knows what we're going to talk about then?
Yeah, sure. Karen and Chris Dubin looped me and James into a conversation about outfall inspections because Karen is planning to conduct a total outfall assessment this summer, and she was interested in any training documents we might have to use as a guide to assist staff. So we just felt like it would be good to have a larger discussion with the group about what people are doing currently for inspections, what training documents they might have, and stuff like that.
Great, thanks very much. Okay, so let's see, for the minutes of October 6th, again, you can find them right there on the website there. We had, again, an update from our two subcontractors. So Dave gave an update on the performance of the spring and summer ad campaign. And then Winooski NRCD, Kristen gave walk through the highlights for July, August, and September. Had a lot of discussion about the rain barrel pickup event. And then the rest of the work that they've been doing. And we particularly noted the use of the Google Earth program to really help people learn more about these urban streams. And also that was the agenda. I mean, that was the minutes from October 6th, the last time we met. Can we get a motion on those minutes?
This is James. I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay.
This is Karen. I'll second it.
Thank you both. Okay, any comments, corrections on the minutes? All right, all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes, say aye.
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 Any no votes? And any abstentions?
Yeah, this is Polly. I'm going to abstain.
Okay, thanks, Polly. All right, so great, minutes are approved. All right, let's see. Kristen, you there? You want to share your screen of the work plan, walk through that, or?
Yes, hello. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. Let me pull up my updates really quick and I can put them on my screen. All right, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yep.
That's good,
So,
thanks.
it's been
Yes.
a little while since we last talked, and lots of great things have happened. The most exciting, I think, for me was that we were able to complete 2 tree planting events in partnership with work that was already planned with the Winooski Conservation District. So we planted 450 trees at McCrae Farm Park in Colchester with about 10 volunteers spaced out throughout the day, of course, following COVID precautions. And then we planted 250 trees at Meach Cove Farm in Shelburne with about 16 volunteers throughout the day. So it was really exciting just to get people outside, get people connected, and be able to do it in a safe way just before things started to get more serious around the pandemic again this fall and winter. So it was really nice to be able to engage some people in person. I also ordered and mailed some thank you gifts to the Stream Team volunteers who were helping to do storytelling this summer. You can see here in the bottom left corner a picture of a few little pocket field guides. These were less than $5 each, and I thought it went really well with the theme of storytelling and observing and sort of doing naturalist style research. So each volunteer was able to select the pocket field guide that they were the most interested in, and then I sent that to them with a little thank you card. So we should be wrapping up the Stream Team 2020 pretty much as soon as we get the Google Earth story map up on the website. We'll have the full details, the photos, the stories, the volunteers have been thanked, and we'll be able to move forward into our 2021 sampling season, which I will definitely talk about in a couple minutes. Did some posting on Facebook and Instagram, and both of those have been very active, especially with Dave doing some of those paid promotions for the Miss Drop monthly posts. So that's really exciting. And Dan and I were also guests on WDEV, a radio show, and we talked for about a half hour. There's a link on the update if you would like to listen to that. Talked a little bit about the program of Rethink Runoff and the state of water quality in our service area in general. And you can see that we are pretty well on track with our budget in terms of having plenty of flexibility for planning through the spring and through the end of this fiscal year. We have, I think this will be on the next update. Nope. We've received a good bit of income. Here we go. Which Winooski NRCD was finally able to pull those funds from the PayPal account that we were using for the Rain Barrel workshop. So we have credited the Stream Team with that income, which pretty much makes up for the material costs of the workshop. So in the end, our budget here is just paying for the staff time to coordinate that event.
Why is it such an interesting number rather than like 1,200 or 1,300?
Right. PayPal takes a cut for processing, so it should
Even
be,
for a nonprofit?
yeah, it should be 2% lower, I think,
Yeah.
2 or 3% than what we were charging. And then I also met with the co-chairs and with Dan to talk about a draft work plan for 2021, which we can take a look at today, and make some plans for a few projects that have fallen a little bit behind schedule, including a project for the Village of Essex Junction. So we are actually planning to launch a Drain Defenders program sometime in February or March there to sort of count as our 2020 project. And what I'm really excited about is I talked with Chelsea, and we are essentially brainstorming a framework for how to get people in each municipality, if this is a program that you want us to bring to your municipality, to be able to adopt a storm drain and, you know, create some videos about how can you adopt a storm drain, why is it important, what's the safety protocol that you're going to want, maybe creating some sort of incentive program where every time you go visit your drain, you log on to Google, Google Forms to kind of log your visit, and then you get put into a raffle for some type of local prize. So we're pretty excited. It sounds like this will help add on the limited capacity of the DPW in Essex Junction to be able to clear storm drains before large events, or especially in the winter if they're clogged up with snow, and try to get people engaged in a really hands-on way that will still be distant and COVID safe for 2021. So that is something I think that is really exciting. That's in the works. And the last major update is that I did join a Zoom call with DEC staff about changes to the La Rosa water quality monitoring program. So last year, as we were applying, I shared with you that some of the criteria for what types of sampling sites or what types of research questions would be prioritized for DEC funding. And those priorities have remained the same. So the DEC is not as interested in sponsoring long-term continuous monitoring at the same site for many, many years, especially if it's one that they already know is impaired. But what they are interested in is shifting that site maybe further upstream or downstream to try to find the source potentially of pollutant loading. They're also interested in protecting high quality streams and collecting data on those. And I think the category that will potentially be the best fit for our streams will be sort of that detective work of where in the stream do we start to see spikes in the parameters that are being tested. So for 2021, La Rosa is supporting statewide testing of phosphorus, nitrogen, and chloride. So those are the only three. And the state is actually consolidating a lot of the administrative work. So rather than put in a really in-depth application on behalf of the stream team and then write the QAP and do the data analysis and have the large report at the end, the state actually has chosen to take on all of those steps, as well as coordinating with the lab to order bottles and figure out the logistics of getting the water from my office in Williston to the lab out in, where is it? Randolph. So it'll be a very different year. And my understanding about how the sites will be selected is, for the most part, the partners that are part of the La Rosa partnership, Rethink Runoff Stream Team being one of them, we'll talk with our basin planner. So for us, that's Karen Bates, and kind of talk about what questions does the state have in this area, what questions do we have, and figure out a suite of sites that make sense for La Rosa to support. But there's no formal proposal. So that being said, if you have sites in your area that you have questions about, I would encourage you to send me either GPS points or just kind of a general narrative, and send me the reason why you're interested in that site. What is it that you want to learn? Why do you think it should be a priority for the state? And I'm happy to bring that suggestion into my meeting with Karen, which should be late January to mid-February. So you'll want to get those in as soon as possible.
Kristen, is it feasible for you to maybe just have a simple table or spreadsheet you can circulate to the members showing the existing locations, or a table or a map? Because I'm wondering if some of those would get triaged out by the state, but on the other hand, if you have less administrative work, then it might be feasible for a site that gets not supported by La Rosa for the municipality to pick it up and just pay you the extra money directly or whatever that would be.
Sure. I can do that. I think one tricky thing is that La Rosa not only pays for the analysis of the samples, they also essentially pay for our slot at the lab. So if we are wanting to do our own analysis separate from La Rosa, my understanding is that we would then have to write a QAP for those sites. We would have to establish kind of a different connection with the lab. So if that is a priority, I know there are some municipalities that do some of their own water quality analysis. We might be able to collect some data that way.
Okay.
But
I think my comment was the clunky way of saying, keep the municipalities informed so they're not surprised if La Rosa turns down a site that's been sampled for years.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send out a list and the map of where we're already sampling. And I think if you feel strongly about one of those sites in your municipality, like just send me back a quick sentence or two about why you still care about it. Or if you think the data has maxed out and you know what you need to know, send me a new idea. So what I'm excited about is I don't know how many sites will be approved in our region. I imagine somewhere between 10 or 15 potentially. So what I'm hoping to do next year is actually kind of, well, this year, I guess, is blend the chemical sampling that we have traditionally done with the stream team with the storytelling that I did this past summer. So we can recruit volunteers for both. And I could either train them to do both activities, or we could have one branch of the stream team collecting water and another collecting stories. But I think it does give the opportunity to pull in people, a wider variety of people, and to continue visiting these sites and sort of building public investment in our urban streams, whether we're able to take samples there or not. So that is my update on things I've been up to and La Rosa. Does anyone have more questions on that? All right, a quiet room. In that case, Dan, do you want me to go ahead and pull up the
Yeah, the work plan.
work plan? Okay, great.
Hey, Kristen, this isn't about what you were just talking about, but with regards to your adopt a drain work, this is more of a share than anything, but Burlington had a functioning adopt a drain, and then we hit a hard wall with Esri housing our website, the web app we had, and we are kind of in a continuous struggle trying to get something that works for us. We recently hired a new staffer that has more GIS savvy, and she's working on that as well. Jill Joubert, some of you may end up meeting her at some point, but if as you work on implementing this, if you find a really great web map or a web service that's housing that, Burlington would love to hear what you've chosen and follow how it works.
Okay, great. I might schedule a separate call with you about that, because I know that you did have that for a while, and I was trying to use that website as a model. So I'm glad to know it's gone down because of issues with the technology itself, not because of issues with the program necessarily.
No, we actually had pretty good, we had some folks that were really passionate about it, and we every once in a while get an email being like, why can't I adopt a basin? So definitely on us and technology side. So yeah, let me know when you want to chat.
Great, I will.
James, this is Dave. Is it just not user friendly, or what was the issue?
No, complete implosion. It's not functioning at all. So the original functionality had unadopted basins and adopted basins, color coded, and then you could see which ones were adopted, what they were renamed as, how long they'd been adopted, so on and so forth. The website we were using, and this is where, forgive me, I'm not an Esri expert. Our past staffer, Greg, who was an Esri expert, spent maybe like 20 office hours on working directly with Esri through multiple tickets on how to get it functioning again. And my understanding is that it was a piece of technology that Esri just kind of stopped caring about. So that's where we last ended up.
James, this is Chelsea. I know RGIS tech Shannon already has a plan on how to get it running for Essex Junction in the town. So I can see what she puts together and what she uses and get in touch with you.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
I guess if we do have a chat about this on the side, let me know, and I'll also pull in, like I said, our new hire, Jill. She'll be the one managing that database. Thanks, everybody.
Great, thanks for that. All right, so taking a look at our work plan. You have seen this before. It is pretty much the same tasks and similar deliverables to years past. Just give you a quick orientation, since we only do this once a year. On the left is the task, a description, a more detailed description, and then over the past 8 years now, what the stream team has historically done, and then what my proposed goal is for 2021. I can take a quick drive through here and share some highlights, and then if you have any thoughts, we can make some edits, or I think we could go ahead and vote on this today. So we'll continue with similar administrative tasks, having me attend at least 4 MS4 meetings, sending monthly reports, invoicing, budget things. We've decided to not include a goal for increasing revenue this year just because funding is so tight. Of course, if we are able to get things like donations or other types of in-kind funding, we will pursue that. We thought 7 was a good number for media coverage. So things like radio spots and press releases, things like that. We were able to get 6 this year and consistently have hovered right around that 5 to 10 zone. In terms of promotional item development, this is sort of where I'm spending some time collaborating with Dave, either adding different elements to the website or getting new printouts. Over the past many years, we've developed a lot of promotional items, and this year we thought 2 would be a good target, just because we already have a lot of the materials and items that we need, and Dave has a lot of great ideas for new creative pieces that he wants to add to the website. So I don't think that will be a big focus for me this year. Last year we added this line of promotional item giveaway. So we were hoping to give away somewhere around 200 items, whether that was a t-shirt or a handout. And of course, with COVID, I gave away as much as I could. I gave people a lot of things at the tree planting event. But for 2021, we decided to not set a specific target goal for that. And we did for partnership development with non-municipal organizations or groups. This year, we got to work with 8 different partners and are hoping to reach 12 different partners in 2021, probably through collaborating to do some more webinars and through sort of online co-sharing collaboration, as we anticipate a lot of our work will continue to be digitally based. So for outreach, you can see that our Instagram numbers have been slowly growing with time, and we set a goal moving from about 250 to 275 by the end of 2021. I imagine that we will surpass that. Same thing with Facebook. We're on a nice upward trend here, hoping to get 300 followers by the end of the year. And a real win, I would say, this year is that we were able to increase our number of subscribers to our mailing list by more than 100 people. Most of those people were folks who signed up for the Rain Barrel Kit or the Rain Barrel Workshop, who maybe did or did not end up attending or purchasing a kit, but checked the little box to say they wouldn't mind being on our newsletter. So I'm excited for that to continue to be actually our strongest avenue for reaching people. Next year, our outreach towns, so events where we'll be doing maybe collaborations with libraries or, doing some sort of digital challenge or campaign, are going to be Burlington, Milton, and Shelburne. So reps from those municipalities, if you have ideas about something that would be a great fit, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll do some brainstorming and get in touch with you in the next couple weeks. Historically, we try to reach 20 people at least through outreach. Digitally, the tracking can be a little challenging, but we will still try to do that. And then our event towns for this year are Williston, Winooski, and South Burlington. So again, if you've got ideas for a great, maybe, hopefully hands-on event that we're able to do, let me know, or we could certainly sort of copy and paste the Drain Defenders model into your community. That would be another great way to get some folks doing hands-on activities still at a distance. So we kept those numbers at 15 per municipality. Again, usually we overshoot that, but it's a good goal to start with. We still have had some great people checking in on all of our rain gardens. So our goal is to keep them, or if folks are ready to bow out, find new volunteers for that. To get at least 20 volunteers for water quality sampling, again, whether that's chemical or storytelling. host a volunteer appreciation event. And then overall, our goal is to reach about 300 people throughout the year with our many different events. So through outreach events, through projects, through water sampling, through rain gardens. That number you can see is lower than what we've been able to achieve in years past. But again, with COVID, we thought that would be a good kind of realistic reach for 2021. So I would love to hear any thoughts or questions on that.
Yeah, Kristen, we can add in a couple, and I have the number on my deck that I'm going to go through for handouts because we're tracking how many people actually download them off the website too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions?
No, looks good. Thanks very much. Annie, Chelsea, do you have anything more before we vote?
No, I mean, we helped her craft that, so we've already seen it.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, can we get a motion on the this adoption of the work plan? Anybody need a motion?
I make a motion to adopt this plan.
Thanks,
This
Lonnie.
is Tom. I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion to adopt the 2020 work plan for NRCD Stream Team. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any no votes? And any abstentions?
Yeah, it's Polly. I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks very much. All right, let's see. Dave, do you want to share your PowerPoint that you sent me?
Sure.
Up on the screen.
Let me just pull it up really quickly. All right, is everybody seeing it okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Cool. All right, so this is a rundown from basically 2020. Metrics, ad spend, a few things like that. And then I'll talk at the end about kind of what's in the store for the next couple months. Obviously, overall, we were down a little bit. You can see from this year to last year, we have a reduction of 12%, 8% in users. That's actually leveling out. And this is actually December. When we did September, we were down 25%. And so as the falls come up, it's leveled off a lot. We do have an increase in the amount of time people are spending on the site and an increase in what they call the bounce rate, which is how many people go to your site for one page and then leave your site. And so both of those are increasing, which is kind of a longer term goal. It's, if we're driving people from an ad or from another place, we want them to kind of look around, take some action, things like that. So I do think as time goes on, our users will level out. I mean, obviously there was a pretty big hit through early spring to summer, but through fall and through the end of the year, it's gone up relatively speaking, I should say. One of the biggest things too is our ad spend. I think if you look at 2019 to 2020, the biggest thing is we actually didn't spend a lot in spring and summer. And again, that was COVID related. When we're running these ads, and this is really the Google YouTube portion of it, because that's the most variable. If we buy broadcast time or we buy a print ad, it's a locked rate. With the digital, we're always kind of making bids and kind of assessing to get kind of as many views and as many impressions as we can. We're always at a position where we could just increase it and kind of blow it out and spend it all. But a lot of times we kind of look at like where we are in terms of leveling you know, how many people are clicking through every week, how many impressions are we getting. So we had $6,000 for spring summer, and we only ended up doing 3,700 this year. Again, you know, the clicks from the ads were definitely, you know, about half that. The video interactions, and that's both people who click through, but also people who watch the full video, you know, the drop isn't that much between those two. When you look at fall, you know, we're much closer. I think we had a $2,500 spend for YouTube and Google there. So we came pretty close to that. But again, this was, you know, this is just right in line with our January to September, where we were down quite a lot, but fall kind of leveled out a little bit more.
Dave, go back to that screen.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like, just want to say, I really like this level of detailed data because it's fascinating to see how for fall, our clicks went down, our budget stayed the same roughly, but the video interactions doubled. So that's kind of, yeah. What is a video interaction?
It's somebody who watches a certain portion, and I want to say it's like, you know, like if you're watching an ad, you can skip it after a certain amount. It's people who watch past that a certain amount, and or people who click through to our URL in this case. They're both kind of gelled into that interaction. So technically, like, there's a more granular breakdown, but this is kind of the benchmark of the video ads.
Okay, so
And
for
they're always
fall,
fairly high because we do. I mean, our impressions are even higher, so it's a big grab.
right. And it does clicks from ads bear some relationship to, if you click the ad, does that count as a website visit or is it something separate?
It does, yeah. And so one of the things, so like last year we started tracking who's downloading a PDF. And I have that in the next couple
Right.
slides. You know, who's signing up from the newsletter. So we're tracking that now. Spring, what we're going to do is we're going to connect those two. So when we run our Rain Barrel ads, we'll be able to see how many people downloaded that PDF after clicking a Rain Barrel ad. How many people signed up after clicking, you know, a Stream
Right.
Team sign up ad.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. And so the thing that we kind of started this year was our Facebook, Instagram, like our social media push. And so that's every month is a tip. It includes a description and again, like a specific URL to the website based on whatever we're talking about. Krista and I worked last year to kind of bring up our 12 hints, 12 tips, one for every month. And it's nice because again, it goes back to that original plan of being full season. So our most recent one was talking about lessening your salt use, you know, and then I think in the November, we might've talked about clearing storm drains after foliage, you know, drops and things like that. And so again, it's a targeted play to our MS4 towns. I want to say it's 30 to 65 maybe homeowners. And I don't have the exact demographic, but so we're serving this up, you know, very specifically. I didn't get the impressions for December before I filled this in. It normally comes in a few days after. And so, I mean, it is interesting to see like the impressions is something we can't really control. I know like when you see it's like 30,000 versus 11,000. But what I'm seeing is that, you know, people are clicking, you know, a similar amount, no matter how many impressions we're getting. So then again, just looking at kind of where our visits came from, we have a very similar breakdown geographically. I mean, I think the top 7 are all the same places that they were last year. Desktop went up for the first time by about 10%, and that jives with everybody sitting at home. And then the event tracking is what I mentioned earlier. So that's, you know, people who have specifically clicked on certain parts of the site. And so the MailChimp sign up form, we've done the Rain Barrel PDF, and the Soil Test CTA is actually an external link that goes to a state site. So people can learn more if they wanted to test their soil. And so again, it's just kind of tracking that information. And I think that's the thing that we're gonna keep working towards between now and kind of our spring launch is identifying what other, tangible things can we start to track? I think, we've done brand awareness, people are seeing the site. But really what I want to try to do is start to have like a tangible piece that we can give to people. So it's, you go to the site and you kind of take away something. I think it's going to be the next step. The rain barrel is the easiest one, because I know in addition to, the workshops, if they sell out, we can redirect them there. They can download the PDF, get their own materials, things like that. So it's going to be looking at those for some of our other, I guess, endeavors, which is a little bit different. The rain barrel is a constructed piece that you can actually make, whereas, picking up pet waste is a little more abstract, or lessening salt use. So that's the kind of stuff we'll be looking at. And then between now and our spring launch, we'll be looking at integrating the storytelling for the streams. And then I just need to connect with Chelsea and everyone about, how to integrate the drain defenders, both, as an initial launch to get people to sign up, and then, figure out what we use it for, long term, if people sign up through a certain way, or how that might, integrate within our GIS or Esri system. So any questions? Okay.
Okay.
Let me just bounce this off. And great.
All right. Thanks very much.
Sure.
Thanks, Dave.
If the other thing I will say too is, if anybody has ideas of takeaways, kind of like the Rain Barrel PDF, we'll probably be connecting in the next month, like informally, for kind of a brainstorm or kind of a reach out session. But if there are kind of action points, I guess, is really what we're trying to do. We're tracking everybody's behaviors, but there really has to be something at the end for them to track. We're not selling a product, but we are selling habit changes and behavioral changes. So if there's that kind of deliverable or something that somebody can walk away with, we're going to have a much better chance of figuring out, like, is this successful? Is the ad to the site visit to the download working?
Dave, I have a quick suggestion for that. I don't know if there's a one-page PDF we can do of top 10 tips for homeowners or renters, or
Oh yeah.
things you can do, and it's easy. So people go to the website, they download that, they print it and put it on their fridge, or they send it to somebody, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Can those be questions in the survey? Like, did you see XYZ, or did you make a behavioral change?
Do you mean the once every 5-year survey?
Yeah.
We could ask it. I know when we were planning it the last time, I think we didn't do a lot of questions that didn't have a prior answer. But yeah, no, definitely. That would be something to bring in there. Yeah. Because I think our questions last year were really circulated around brand awareness. Like, do you know of Rethink Runoff, or have you heard of it, or have you visited the site? So this would be like the next logical step from a survey goal as well.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
Mhm.
Chelsea and Annie, I'll turn this over to you guys.
Okay, I'm going to turn over to Annie since she was part of the conversation for the outfalls.
Yeah, so just as I mentioned before, Chris and Karen and James and I were having a conversation about outfall assessments and what each community does for their own assessments. And Karen, feel free to jump in whenever, and Chris and James as well. Karen's planning on doing a total outfall assessment and was interested in training documents to use as a guide to assist staff. And so I provided her our intern training document that we provide to our summer interns for them when they conduct inspections that Chelsea and I put together for them. And James provided the document that he uses. And I also mentioned that our interns conduct inspections every single summer on all the outfalls that they can find, which is different from Colchester. They don't conduct inspections every year. And I also mentioned that at some point, I'd like to hire a consultant to conduct a complete assessment on all of our outfalls in an effort to put together a long-term improvement plan that identifies cost estimates and prioritization. But I know that's a significant undertaking. And Karen mentioned that that's something that they did back in 2003 with a consultant. And so they're just trying to recreate the assessment that they did this year. So we just thought it would be beneficial to bring it back to the rest of the group and just kind of see, you know, how each community is conducting their outfall inspections, if they're doing annual inspections, what training documents they have, and are willing to share. So if anybody has anything they'd like to add, or, you know, just open the discussion to the other communities to see what everybody's doing, I think it would be helpful to talk about it.
Thanks, Annie. So I think you did a great job describing where we're at. I'll just add that as we look to recreate the 2003 assessment that was completed, we had hired a firm to do that, and they had identified, I'll call them the top 10 worst, and then developed cost estimates for how to fix those. And we addressed those at that time, or very close after that time. But now as we look to the future and have some sites that are under MRGP requirements and some sites that are just outright owned and maintained by the town, we're trying to look at what type of assessment criteria to use, and whether there are communities that treat those different pieces of infrastructure differently, or whether you assess them all using the same criteria, and where everybody's at in terms of how they're looking to implement the changes that are needed under the MRGP for outlets. Oh, I'll also offer that I'm currently looking at developing a UPWP project to come up with an MRGP implementation plan that would also include capital investments needed for all outfalls in Colchester, as well as those that are under the permit. So that's something that I don't know if I'd mentioned to you, Annie, but I think would be a really good fit for what we're trying to do. And I know that Jericho had done a similar exercise with Evan Fitzgerald last summer, and I feel like that would be beneficial here, because we're really trying to focus on these pieces of infrastructure that are sometimes out in the woods and not really maintained, but if they clog or back up or are crushed or are somehow not operable, it can cause your entire system to not be functioning properly. So just interested in hearing how other communities address that. I mean, even the question of, do you inspect everything annually or every 5 years or not on any schedule, would probably be helpful too.
I got a quick question for Chris Dubin. I mean, or Annie, can you guys do a UPWP request to try to get the, you said you wanted to hire a consultant?
Yeah, I think that there shouldn't be a problem running these types of requests through our UPWP program, which will allow for an 80-20 split of, the RPC covering 80% across the project and the municipality only covering 20. And I don't think that the project needs to be limited to MRGP related assets. It like Karen said, it could be all of your outlets. And I think, Karen, I talked about, like, in this process, we would sort of be able to kind of categorize those two groups separately in this planning exercise, just so that we can kind of look at them in pillars and in conjunction.
Chris mentioned that it could be a UPWP project when we were having this discussion through the email. We just hadn't considered it at the time because it was, it was just something in my mind after seeing Evan's presentation to the Quack in like April or something on what he did in Underhill. And I thought that would be a great thing to use on the outfalls. And we will consider it as a project. We're just really strapped for cash right now, trying to get our flow restoration plan projects completed. And we have a stormwater inspection assessment that we're trying to progress on as well. But it is definitely something that we would consider doing in the future because I think it's needed. We have so many outfalls that I'm not even really sure how much money it's gonna cost to address. So yeah,
And I guess to
definitely
add-
we would consider it.
And to add on to that, Annie, the RPC is available for general data collection. Where, we run our summer internship program. They've proven to be effective and flexible in, field assessments of a variety of types of municipal infrastructure. And we're also available in sort of a technical advisory role with our GIS team. I mean, we can sit down and help build data collection systems, lay them out, figure out how all that stuff's going to work, and prepare you with a very easily usable system to go out in the field and do it on your own. So the RPC can kind of help out in a lot of different ways. And again, those sort of activities wouldn't require a match because they're all staff time.
Okay, that's good to know. So I think I just need to take a step back and maybe coordinate with Chelsea and figure out what would work for our community and how we would want to move forward. Because our summer interns do inspect our outfalls every year, but now I think it's gotten to the point of like, what do we do with that data and how do we prioritize?
Yeah, we have
which
no
outfalls
shortage
we-
of data. We just haven't spent the time organizing it. Yeah.
And one thing that I'm interested in sort of the lens of the MRGP is like, Karen, you did that study, however many years ago, and have you begun to look back to see how are these BMPs performing 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and begin to start saying, all right, what is the life cycle of these upgrades? Maybe that's too early, but especially with like rock line ditching as a maintenance activity, I'd be interested in having those discussions. Well,
Chris, when you say you did that study, do you mean the mouth-based scoping study?
no. The work that you hired a consultant to look at all of your
2003 work.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So the ones that were addressed as a result of that were either in extreme failure or imminent failure. And so I'm talking like pipe separating or fully buried. And those were the types of projects that were addressed at that time. I don't think ditching was even on their radar.
I guess my question is, for those, are all of those still performing perfectly? Like, are they starting, is it too early?
Well, whoever does this inspection can tell us, because I don't think we visited them in quite some time.
I don't
But
want
that is a good thing to note, Chris.
I don't want to pull us too far in any different direction here with the outfall discussion. One of the things I was interested about when that email chain first started was how other folks are doing their outfall inspections. Tom, you just shared a link to what South Burlington's doing. That's helpful. I'll look at that. The reason I bring this up is because we have a little bit of a homegrown GoCanvas inspection that we can do in the field. And we also sort of tie in land use and surrounding area to our overall scoring for our outfalls and how important they are to be addressed. And I think I would be curious to know how other municipalities, particularly here in Chittenden County, when they're ranking their outfalls, how are they doing that, and how does that compare to how we're doing it? We haven't been getting to all of ours every year. We did a pretty big outfall assessment back in 2017, 2018. I'd say we're only doing about 10% of ours a year, but with more hires, we're hoping to get to a higher number. But just how do we rank those given the outfalls themselves and the contributing land area, and then what do we do with that info is, a lot like what Annie just said. So this is just an interesting discussion in general, and curious as to uniformity.
To add to that, another thing that I've been facing in the village, and maybe it's just the village, but we have a lot of outfalls, but the developers never followed through on their easements. Like there are pipes, but we don't have easements to actually go in and fix those. So a lot of my time is also spent working with landowners to allow us the easements to maintain our actual infrastructure. And sometimes that takes on a beast of its own and is extremely frustrating because some
Yep.
people are not willing to work with you.
Okay. Anything more on this?
I think that just when Karen, when you submit your UPWP application, if you can provide us, I don't know, maybe not maybe a copy of the application, but like, what you're putting in for and what your plan is sort of, I guess it would just be good to keep this discussion open because I am really interested to see how people are going to address their outfalls because I'm not really sure how we're going to address ours.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I've also been talking with a couple different firms around here who do that kind of assessment work and to try and come up with a budget figure. And so I'd be happy to share the application, which would include that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
This is Tom. I have one related question if we have time, Dan.
Go ahead, yeah.
For the MRGP, if a outfall is on private property and you don't currently have an easement or a way to access it legally, how are folks documenting that? Or what are you been told think is needed to satisfy the requirement in the MRGP portion of our MS4 permit, just to say it's not on city property where this erosion exists, so there's nothing we can do about it? Or what approaches are folks taking there?
Well, I'm going to ask Chris on that because I guess, Chris, you submitted all the data for the MS4s back in December, or was it December or earlier, or was it April?
Yeah.
Right, so you did it in April. So the question is, have you gotten a nasty email from Jim Ryan saying, we found outfall 257-5 in South Burlington with an empty data field? Like,
No, we're not hearing anything like that. I don't think DEC is at the point where they're.
I guess put it this way, were there empty data fields in there that says this is a culvert that is mapped, that your exercise of tracing the lines in a neighborhood and the catch basins, and here's an outfall that was identified, and were there empty data fields?
There are, because there are some on the villages table right now.
There's definitely some empty data fields throughout the data set, but in regards to whether or not it's within the right of way, I mean, they do exist throughout the data set.
Well, these would be ones out of the right of way. Out of the right of way, but not inspected.
Yeah, and this is Christy. I can chime in here. I know, Tom, you sent me that email and I haven't gotten back to you about that specific question. And that is something that was written into the MRGP as like a feasibility criteria, like if there's a stone wall or if there are historic trees, or I don't remember the whole list of things that were feasible implementation requirements. And I need to look back at this. And I know that, like Chris was saying, we haven't analyzed all of that data, and we were really, thinking about, the whole MRGP program, looking at, how many things are our municipalities going to leave blank? Like, nope, that's infeasible. No, we can't do that. And then really, take a look at, how many of these things are going to be issues, and is it really going to lead to less implementation? But I can look back into that and get back to you guys with more guidance on that if you don't have an easement for those outfalls. Yeah, that's
Great.
all I have right now.
I will say that for more roadway related work, segment related work, in situations where we're trying to execute projects through grant funding that may go outside of the right of way, the solution may go outside of the right of way. Simply having the road foreman and the town administrator work with the local landowner. Hey, can we access your property? Can we get it turned out on your property? I don't know how formal those discussions really have.
Right.
Can I jump in, Dan?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we had contacted Jim about this question because we just did a project on Lower Mountain View Drive, and to upsize the culvert to meet minimum standards would have required the installation of a pump station, which was something that we couldn't afford. And so we talked with Jim and just kind of asked how would we document that this is not a feasible improvement to make in order to comply with the standards. And I'm reading from an email that he responded. He said that would need to be documented in the segment REI assessment under the feasibility exemptions of the app for the reasons mentioned. You'd have to reassess the segment in order to document this. If you include that information in the assessment and submit it to the implementation table, you would not need any other formal documentation. So we felt like that was pretty clear, at least in that scenario.
Yeah, that's helpful, Karen. And I think it'll be interesting to see how many of those fall into that category, because that could have a significant impact on reducing the phosphorus targets. It's maybe more of an issue for the MS4s who were given that phosphorus number to reduce compared to the MRGP municipalities that just need to, fix their roads and outlets and don't have a specific target. But it was something that we were, trying to, thread the needle on allowing, certain things to kind of get out of the compliance. But thanks for that.
Great. Any last thing on this? Okay, any other updates? Anybody wants to give on anything? All right. Next meeting. Dave or go ahead, Danny.
We need the reports from Kristen and Dave, at least draft soon for our annual reports to submit with our annual reports.
Sure.
I don't know if, do you think you would have it available for the February meeting, or
Yeah,
do you want to wait
I mean, a
until
lot of the stuff I put in mine is basically the annual report data. So yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's good
Thanks.
for me too. I could definitely have it by February.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, those could be rough drafts because we would still have the March 3rd meeting, Wednesday the 3rd. But okay, any other agenda items for February?
No,
If
not that I
folks-
can think.
Oh, if folks were wanting, I could give a more detailed tour of the Stream Team Google Earth. I know I showed sort of a preview at the last meeting. Or if people would rather just explore that on their own time, that is fine as well.
I think it's so engaging. I think we should do it. It won't take too long, right?
No, I don't think so. Maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Okay. Great. All right, we've got agenda items. We've got, I think we're all good. All right. If nobody's else got anything else, that'll do it. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Right.